I had that ironed out, but it's
All
okay.
right, I
At
think
least
we're
we're
live
here.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Oh, it's totally fine. So, hey, everybody, welcome back to the Homestead HQ, where we talk about homesteading and preparedness. Um, Usually takes a few minutes for some people to get in on the comments, but if you're watching this on the replay, our sponsor for this show is Hickory Ridge Soap. If you'd like some awesome soap made by myself, you can find that at Two Old Crows Homestead, or you can go to our sustainability store at KSL because it's for sale there too. We also have VacMaster Fresh. You can use, if you go to vacmasterfresh.com to get your chamber sealer, which is awesome. I love my chamber sealer. You can get 15% off with code Homestead. So tonight we have a special guest. We've got Mike Adkins with us. He is a retired Green Beret. He has taught many military people many things, right? You were a trainer.
Yeah, after retirement, I kind of slipped right into that and did that for about a decade.
Wow. What are some of the things that you've taught before?
When I first retired, I rolled into profiling, essentially teaching. We've a lot of folks are familiar with criminal profiling. Well, I taught terrorist profiling, and
Yeah.
the idea was to help our special operations forces, and sometimes we taught our conventional forces too, the skills that would allow them to be better prepared when they rolled into an area to help them identify the folks that are more likely to be bad guys as opposed to the general population.
Do
And
you go
what's that?
ahead? I
No.
was going to say, do you find when you know stuff like that it just makes you more, I mean, I'm sure it makes you more aware, but just makes you more skeptical of everybody?
Well, it's funny you say it that way because the name of that training was called Special Operations Forces Situational Awareness Training, or SOFSAT. And so it is designed to make you more aware of your surroundings, specifically the actions of people in your surroundings. Now, there was more to it. You could use there were things that you could use in your environment to help identify, but all those they were all things that were influenced by people in the area. So yes, to answer your question, it did make me very um, um, aware of those around me, and I did find myself constantly profiling everyone in my surroundings,
That's what
and,
I'm
and
asking. That
constantly
would make
looking.
me crazy just to have that in my head and be thinking that like all the time.
Yeah, when I first started doing it, it was it wasn't necessarily second nature, but after I did it for a couple of years of instructing it and teaching it and doing it, then it just became part of the way that I thought. And it was, I wouldn't call it intrusive, but it did make me um, actively search. It did encourage me to actively search for threats, which, so most people walk around blissfully unaware of their
Yeah.
surroundings. And there's a balance. You don't want to be hyper vigilant to the point that interferes with your life, but at the same time, a a moderate awareness is beneficial. There are many people that have become victims just because they were not paying attention to what was going on around them. So if you could just take the time to get your, not walk around looking in your phone, and actually take the time to look at the those around you and observe, or attempt at least to observe for potential threats. Um, there are certainly situations where that could prevent folks from becoming a victim.
Right. And that we're going to kind of get into that with our topic tonight.
Yeah.
But before we dive into our topic, Jason would kill me if I didn't talk about our sustainability store. So at KentuckySustainableLiving.com, you can check out the sustainability store. We've got medical kits, we've got medical supplies that you can buy, we've got comfrey and comfrey salve. What else do we have? We have my soap. Oh, and we have radios. You can get radios from us as well. And those come pre programmed. And when you purchase one, you also get a consultation from Brian and Susan Dudley, who always teach our radio classes and stuff. So go check that out. It's at KentuckySustainableLiving.com. Also, coming up at the end of October, the last Saturday in October, October 25th, I believe, at the WKU Ag Expo Center, which is where we have the festival at. We're going to have the Super, SOUPER, the Super Homestead Meetup. And it's absolutely free. You can come and just hang out. It's going to be from 9 to 4, and it's kind of like come meet your people. So bring a pot of soup with you to share. And I'll be doing a soap making workshop, and Jessica, my daughter, will be doing a chicken care workshop. She's not a vet or a doctor or anything like that. She's just really good at caring for animals, and especially chickens. So she's going to teach you some of the things that she's learned over the years of how to do that. So come check it out. You can go to Kentucky Sustainable Living, and there's a link on the workshop page for you to just fill out a form just to let us know that you're coming, because we kind of like to have an idea of how many people are going to be there. So if you could just let us know, that'd be awesome, and we would love to see you. So tonight, I asked Mike on here to talk about kidnapping awareness and escape. And I know I have mixed feelings about this, because I by no means, I think it's a fantastic topic to talk about, but I also don't like to live a life of fear. I
Yep.
don't live a life of fear. I don't feel like, I'm not a fearful person or whatever. And I do feel like um, I'm aware of my surroundings, and that's actually only, well, now I started to say, I guess I had started being aware of my surroundings when I started having kids. I
Yep.
mean, it's like you look for every danger when you have, especially little kids that can, get away from you or something. So, and then having grandchildren has just kind of reignited that in me. Like when they're with me, I'm always looking around and making sure that something is not, coming around or anything like that. Um, but how did you get into teaching about kidnapping, for one thing?
Well, it was essentially an extension of the profiling
Mm-hmm.
that I was already teaching, and it's when I was identifying things that people wanted. I spoke to my students that I was teaching other things to, and I said, "What are some things you would like to learn?"
Oh,
Well,
okay.
and that was one of the things that came up. Well, because it was so closely related to the profiling, um, essentially used that as kind of the starting point, and I built a course around the understanding of human behavior. So when it was kidnapping prevention was the first part of that, right? So it was training folks to identify likely threats or anomalous human behavior that could be indicative of threatening intentions, right? So it's not magic. You can't, when you see the profiling shows on TV where they just say something and they go, "Oh, he's lying," or "Oh, he's guilty," or it's not
Right,
exactly, it really doesn't work that way.
right.
Um, it's all a factor of more likely or less likely. So more likely to be a threat, or less likely to be a threat. And that was important because, to your point, you don't want to walk around in fear. The idea of it is to actually make you feel safer because you are more understanding of of the behavior of those around you. So the way that what that looked like is there's different parts of human behavior that can be analyzed just by observation, even if you can't hear them, like even if you, or if they're speaking a different language, because people act the same regardless of, on certain parts of the way people act is the same regardless of where they are in the world, what language they speak. So even if there were foreigners in the room with you and you didn't understand their words, if you could observe their behavior, you could identify potential threats. So that was the idea behind that course. It was reasonably successful. We got uh, really really good feedback from the graduates of the course. But the identification of the threat was only part of it. A lot of folks enjoyed the second part of it even more, which was when we dove into how to escape restraints. So we went into how to escape things such as the most common restraint used by kidnappers and terrorists around the world is duct tape. Duct tape is surprisingly easy to defeat, but a lot of folks think that just because you've got duct tape around your wrist or around your ankle, well, you're defeated. It's the same principle that the police use with handcuffs. Like you see somebody that is argumentative or even potentially violent, and if when they finally wrestle the handcuffs onto them, they go, "Well, I'm beaten," and they just stop fighting. Well,
Huh.
handcuffs can be defeated as well,
Right.
even without a key and without shims and all that stuff. Although I did teach that. So there was the awareness portion first. So that's essentially looking for um, the behavior that's indicative of somebody with bad intentions.
So what do you
One,
mean? Give me a couple examples of a way that someone could hone their awareness skills. Just a couple things.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly the right question. So the first thing you need to do is essentially establish a what is normal. We call it a baseline, but what is normal for the environment you're in? So if you're in let's use a common example, which is a restaurant setting.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a restaurant setting, you kind of expect it. You kind of understand what type of behavior you should expect to see in there, right? We do that intuitively. You're in a sit down. I'm not talking about McDonald's. I'm talking about sit down restaurant. You understand the type of behavior or the way that people should be behaving.
Right.
What you're wanting to look for is things that are outside of that or anomalous or an anomaly to that behavior. Um, one example is if you see two people that come in separately, but then they are constantly looking at one another as if they're ensuring that the other person is there. We call that a proxemic linkage, meaning they're linking themselves to the other person. Picture this:
So
if
they're trying to
there's
look like they don't know each other, but they actually do.
yeah, it's commonly it's that's a thing you'll commonly see with drug dealers, right? When they walk in, if they've got somebody that is there with them, was an example because we had a lot of video surveillance to show this to the students, and we would use drug dealers as one of the examples because one guy's coming in to sell the drugs, and but he's got somebody there kind of overwatching him in that bar or in that location, and he's acting like he's alone. But if he's constantly looking over at that other person, we look at things that we consider to be important or desirable. Picture this: you go into, say there's something that you would like to purchase, and you go into it, but it's so expensive. So you go in, you look at it. Yeah, I can't afford it right now, and you leave, and you come back and you look at it again. Well, it's too expensive. Why is it that we keep looking at that thing that we can't afford? Is because we desire it.
Right.
People will do this for a potential romantic interest as well. They'll constantly look at the person that they're romantically interested in. They'll also look at it from the perspective of someone who is providing them with some sort of safety, like their partner um, that is protecting them in that scenario. That's one of the things that has given away undercover policemen as well. They're constantly checking to make sure their backup is over there. And well, the bad guy's looking at him. Why do you keep looking at that guy in the red ball cap?
Yeah.
Oh, no reason. I don't know him. You know, right? So if you're seeing somebody that's acting, we call it. Let me use that kind of like generic terms. If you see somebody that's acting funny, right?
Right.
Then
Right.
my question is why. It may be nothing, or it may be something. Well, the only way to determine which it is to continually observe them and see if their anomalous behavior is because of malintent or not. And um, it is. the concept of teaching this is actually a pretty long and involved course. So
Mm-hmm.
to kind of give a quick pitch over, during this conversation is difficult, particularly without visual aids to show
Right.
people what these things look like. But but so the generic way that I say somebody that I try to explain this to someone, if I just want to keep it super simple, is if you think somebody's acting funny, listen to your brain, because your brain has identified something. The part of our brain that is constantly looking out for danger is called the amygdala. And when the amygdala picks up something, people will often refer to this as the sixth sense, or women's intuition. And if you see something that stands out to you as odd, just continue to observe it, and then you use what you can see to determine if, hey, do I consider this to be a threat or not.
Right.
That's kind of
Like
the generic. That's the quick
Forrest,
generic pitch.
Forrest says, "Why is that person wearing a large black coat in the middle of summer?"
What
I
person?
think I think you're right about the whole
Oh,
women's
yes.
intuition thing, because my we went on a family cruise. This has been several years, well, probably about 8 years ago, I guess, because two of our grandkids were with us, and we have more now, but they were still really small. And then we had all of our girls and husbands. There was like 14 or 17 people with us. I can't remember. Um, but we ported in the Bahamas, and it was right after a hurricane had come through, and the Bahamas were kind of like, I really didn't enjoy this cruise. I really didn't get, it wasn't fun to me. And the Bahamas were kind of junky looking because this, hurricane had come through. I'm sure they're not that way all the time. But when we got off the boat, that little area where just right when you get off the boat, they've got it set up with all kinds of like little shops for you to buy stuff. And there's women sitting there that want to braid your hair and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So we get off the boat, and these people just start, they like come up and start running their hands through my girl's hair, wanting to braid their hair. And I'm like pulling them away, because at the time, like three of our girls were teenagers, and I'm pulling them away, and I'm like, don't touch my kids. And then this guy is trying to get us to go with him, for a cab ride or whatever, where we wanted to go. And I finally like lost my mind. I mean, I
Yeah.
started yelling at people, do not touch my children, get away from, I lost it. And my husband was like, he kind of pulled me back, and he was like, calm down. And I said, these people are touching my kids. I was like, no, I'm not going to calm down. And
Yeah.
so we went and found some place to eat, and, people left us alone, and they probably thought I was crazy, but I don't even care, because I don't know. I did not feel safe there. I didn't. And that one port, I didn't enjoy it at all, because I didn't feel safe, and I didn't feel like my kids were safe.
That's exactly the right thing. So again, we're not trying to get into, in this short conversation here, all of the different
Right.
things of observation, because the generic way to discuss it is exactly what you just said. It doesn't feel right, even if you can't articulate what it is that's bothering you. Like in that scenario, you were able to clearly articulate, that person is touching my child or my grandchild. Oh no, this ain't happening.
Yeah.
But the same idea, even on a less obvious scenario or a less obvious scale, um, is if you see something and it just doesn't feel right to you, then ideally distance yourself from the situation, obviously, if possible, um, and if not, prepare to defend yourself.
Right.
And again, I'm grossly oversimplifying this.
No, I get
Um,
it. I get
you
it.
know,
I just wanted to like spark people's interest, so they start thinking,
yeah,
so they just start wondering about, what can I do? Well,
yeah,
okay, so like what are some behaviors or habits or things that people can do to make them not look like a victim? Is there
yeah,
something that they can, or a way that they can carry themselves, or something like that?
yeah. The number one thing so in modern times, we've got this device like the one I'm using right now. Obviously, I had a computer problem. I had to switch to my phone. But this device right here, these cell phones that everybody carries around are one of the primary reasons that people become victims in today's society, is because we get engrossed in our phones. We look down. We're not looking left. We're not looking right. Some Even if I simplify it even more, there are people that are killed by stepping out into traffic because they're looking at their phones. So you got something as large as a car coming at you, and you miss that because of your phone. Now, how easy would it be to miss that person who has been following you or hyper focused on you because he's trying to determine if you're a victim or not?
Yeah.
Well, you're absolutely a victim if you haven't looked up from your phone in the last 5 minutes of your walk. So the first one is to if you need to look at your phone, is to do whatever you need to do, but put it away when you start traveling or start moving again. That's the in the modern era. That's the biggest one. Um, the a a different version of that, like not talking about the phone, is whenever you're stationary, is looking around the room. If we can use the restaurant example or anything else, any public setting,
Right.
if there's one person's actions or one person's movements that are different than everyone else, my reaction is not that's a threat. My reaction is, why is that person acting differently than others? Then you can focus in and determine if you consider it to be a threat or not. If it's, it may just, it may be nothing, but continual observation, watching for threatening behavior, watching for communication, trying to identify weapons. Um, One action that a lot of folks will do, particularly if they're not accustomed to carrying a concealed weapon, is they will physically touch that because they're not accustomed to it. They'll continually touch that with their elbow. So say they've got, Forrest gave the example of why is that guy wearing a long coat in the summertime. That's certainly anomalous. But even just a short coat, just a regular coat that doesn't even stand out, but he's constantly touching and checking, physically checking, to make sure his firearm is still there because he's not accustomed to having it there. That could be an identifier. This you don't know what's under his coat, but you know something's under his coat because he's constantly
Right.
checking on it. Uh, Simple things like that. Well, I say simple. It's actually it's not if you're not accustomed to doing it. So it is changing your mindset to actively scan for threats without allowing it to get you into that hyper aware state that's actually interfering with your life. So it's a balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what about this is where I kind of get conflicted with this. What about how do we teach our children to not be victims without scaring the fire out of them?
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
maybe we need to scare the fire out of them. We live in a bad time. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know, but I don't want my grandchildren to live in fear. And so, how do you have that conversation with kids?
I don't know that there's one generic answer for children um, just as adults, children are very different and they're going to learn in different ways. The For my kids, um, it was a conversation, um, identifying potential threats. Well, I have girls.
Hmm.
I never figured out how to make boys, so
Yeah,
I
we
have
have
nothing.
five. We have five
Yeah.
girls. So yeah,
so so for them, I think trying to um, convey that to girls is actually easier, because when you explain all those potential threats out there that are more likely for the girls, it kind of
yeah,
drives it home and makes it serious. But again, to your point, is you want to try to find the balance of not make them feel like there's a rapist around every corner, but rather than that, make them um, understand that not that they're around every corner, but they do exist, and that to protect yourself from that, you have to be looking around. You have to be aware of your surroundings. Um, Even simple physical security points. I just had this conversation um, with a woman today who said that she was um, taught by her older brother not to be a victim, and she said he taught me, as soon as I get in my car, before I do anything else, even before I buckle my seatbelt, is you lock the doors. simple physical security things as well, making sure your doors are locked. If you're in an area that you consider to be sketchy, all right, see if you can get someone to escort you out, even if it's another woman that can go with you, because predators are less likely to attack a pair or a group than they are obviously an individual.
Right, right.
So trying to kind of impart that common sense approach to things that um, raises their um, raises their awareness that there are threats, but that you have the ability to protect yourself from those threats.
So empowering makes it not so scary, right?
It does, and I mean, you know me. Um, I am a huge fan of the Great Equalizer, which is firearms.
Yeah,
The smallest woman out there um, can level the playing field with the biggest man out there. But that comes with responsibility. It comes with legal obligations to obey the law, and training. So
training.
just getting
Absolutely.
a gun. Yeah, I was just at the range today. Um, the the challenge of maintaining proficiency is a real thing because it is a perishable skill. So if you choose to take that route, all the appropriate precautions need to be taken into consideration as well, meaning safety training and and the maturity required to have that on you.
Absolutely. Mike, what advice do you have for people who are traveling to areas that are questionable?
Um,
I
you
mean,
mean
I would like to say that that's just like overseas, or if you were going to the
okay?
Middle East or something like that, but that could be Chicago or,
Right now, Portland,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Right now, as much as that's a very sensitive subject right now. Obviously, there's a national divide on that question. Ideally, is if there is an option. I just had a discussion with this about this with someone, and they said, "Well, I want to go to this place," and I said, "Is Are you required to go for business or is this recreation?" He said, "This is recreation." I said, "Consider changing your plans."
yeah,
If you if you know that it is an undesirable location, that it is a threat to you or your family, and you're not required to go there because of your job, why would you still go?
yeah,
That was what I said to him. Now, if you don't have a choice because you're being sent there by your work or whatever obligation is forcing you to go there, then it becomes extremely challenging because every location is different. To use your example of Chicago, if you go there with your concealed carry firearm, you're in
oh, you'll be
violation.
arrested.
You're in violation of their law.
Yeah,
You go to California, even if you're following their rules. If you in California, if you use a firearm to defend yourself, you are very likely to be prosecuted, even as the victim. So it becomes exceptionally challenging when you're in those political climates that do not encourage self-defense, but they encourage victimhood. Um, I don't have a generic answer for all of those because they're so different.
yeah,
Um, for you mentioned going overseas, that becomes the same problem, right? I mean, I have traveled. I have been a lot of places around the world, but most of the time I did that, I was in an official capacity as a special forces guy, which meant we were armed.
right.
Um, Doing that as a civilian, um, check the Department of State website, see what your travel advisories are, and make the decision if that threat is worth your recreation or not. If there are travel advisories in that area, consider changing your plans. I mean, just avoid. It goes back to what we said earlier. If you identify a problem and you have the ability to avoid it, do so. Remove yourself from the threat.
Yeah. It's just sad that it has to be that way, right?
Well, it's sad, I'm neither an optimist nor a pessimist. I pride myself on just being a realist. Yeah, if it's a positive scenario, great. I'm okay with that. If it's a negative scenario, same thing. But I don't try to put my spin on it either way. It just is what it is. So if you look at a scenario and you try to maintain your objectivity and you decide that it is a high threat environment and you have the ability to avoid it, that's the first step.
Right. Yeah. Um, what do you, so say I'm out walking in a park or something like that, and I suspect that there's somebody following me. What do I do?
Well, so on public, so we're talking about in the United States, you're in a park. The
If
first
I'm not
thing,
armed, don't assume I'm armed.
and you're not armed, the first thing, so this that's actually the even local law enforcement and federal law enforcement, oh, they all have the same answer to that. So I'll just mimic what they say to do. They
Okay.
say to seek out populated areas. That's what the first thing they say.
Okay.
So it goes back to our earlier statement: is when you're alone, you're more likely to be a victim. When you're not alone, that greatly decreases. So immediately try to seek out well lighted areas, preferably with other people. And again, you're not armed. Once it becomes, if you become certain that that there is a threat, most most bad guys, we'll just use a generic term here, bad guys, um, do not want to draw attention. So you start making a racket. That's also often a deterrent, which is why there's the whole thing of whistles and horns and all those kind of things. It's the same principle. Is they don't want attention. They want to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do and get away with it. And as soon as you start bringing attention to them, that is one of the ways that that you can discourage that behavior.
Okay. Let's shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
You're already kidnapped.
Yes, ma'am.
You're in somebody else's whatever.
Control. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some things, what should you do? Like what are some things, and I know that you can't control whether or not, what's going to happen to you, or maybe you can. I don't know. What should you be trying to do?
Well, the first thing you want to do is do not come across, if they've got control of you, do not come across as a threat, because if you are already under their control and then they view you as a threat, they're more likely to become violent with you.
Okay.
So you want to try to comply, um, or at least give the appearance of compliance. Um, Simultaneously, you want to be constantly looking for um, your escape route, your escape plan. Part of what I used to teach was I taught how to escape from um, duct tape, zip ties, locks, um, um, picking locks, everything from padlocks to doors to every kind of lock you can imagine. Dead bolts. Part of the course was teaching all of those skill sets. There is a really good YouTube channel. I got nothing in it. I'll just tell you because I've watched this stuff. It's called the Lock Picking Lawyer. Um,
Okay.
the
Lock
Lock Picking
picking
Lawyer.
warrior.
Yep, yep.
I'm writing that down.
He gives some really really good tutorials. One one thing that you can do is you can hide certain tools on your person and make it part of your EDC, part of your everyday carry. Is
Okay.
your lock picks, um, or your various tools on the back of my belt. I had a leather pocket sewn into the back of my belt. There I keep a handcuff key, because where you're most likely to have your be handcuffed is with your hands behind your back. Um, Side note on that: if you get arrested, legitimately tell them you've got it and give that to them, because you can get in trouble for having that
So
if they
does
arrest you. Yeah,
the same key work for all of the handcuffs?
absolutely, yes.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yes, if you choose that, then you do something wrong, you get arrested. Make sure you surrender that immediately, because they can get you for
Okay.
that. Uh, but bad guys don't typically use handcuffs. They typically use tape or cordage. That's the most common. Um, that's the most common restraint used by kidnappers and terrorists worldwide. So having the understanding of how to defeat those two things goes a long way. There is a trying to think of the company that sells it. Um, if I think of the brand name, the company, I'll tell you. But you can buy Kevlar thread. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's actually Kevlar, just like they use
Right.
in vests. But it's the size. It's actual thread, and you can. There's ways of hiding that on you. With that single tiny little piece of thread, it will cut through rope, cordage, um, tape. It'll cut through anything shy of metal. And if you just have that little piece of thread on you, and you understand the techniques of how to use it, you can saw your way out of about anything.
Wow.
Yeah. I wanted to say it's I want to say ITC, but I'm not positive. I'd have to look it up again. Um,
Okay.
but imminent threat. Yeah, ITC. I think it's ITC. Whatever the case. If you typed in Kevlar thread on an internet search, I'm sure it'd bring you to one of the various sites that sells it. But essentially, you just have a loop in both ends and use it in a sawing motion. It'll cut through anything shy of metal.
Would there would there ever be a situation? Would there ever be a situation where you might think that you have an opportunity to escape, but maybe you shouldn't try?
Oh, that's it's too broad of a question. That's kind of a hard one to answer. If if you see the opportunity to escape and you're certain that
Yeah.
it's a genuine opportunity, you should take it. That's what. Now again, I'm giving you guidance. This is not guidance that I'm making up. This is guidance that comes um, from U.S. law enforcement, specifically the FBI.
Okay.
They say if you see an opportunity to escape, you should take it. So that's the same guidance that I would provide somebody if they, if they're asking me. I say if you got the opportunity, don't waste it because you may not get another.
So if you're able to escape, what do you do then?
Create distance. So the you want to cover as much distance, put as much distance between yourself and the threat as possible, as quickly as possible. And again, I mean, all these are generic answers because
Right.
every situation is different. But the generic answer is create as much space between you and the threat as possible. Whether that's by running, driving, swimming, whatever the case is create distance.
The reason that I wanted to talk to you about this tonight is mainly because of the vast numbers of people. It's not just women, it's men and women that are kidnapped for sex trafficking and
Yep.
human trafficking, whatever,
Hmm.
even sold into slavery and all of that kind of stuff. And I know that you have a whole class that you do, and it's hard to cover a lot of stuff in 45 minutes, but I want people to start thinking. I mean, especially that there was a my son-in-law he works at a 911 dispatch in the town next next to us, and his boss came and did a presentation at our church probably about 10 years ago talking about human trafficking,
Yep.
and he said something about the I-65 interstate is like the trafficking superhighway
Yeah.
because it goes all the way from the top of the country down to the Gulf. And within a matter of hours, they can pick up anybody on that interstate and have them out of the country because it goes straight to the Gulf.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
And that statement alone just scared the daylights out of me. I mean, I
Yeah.
was, I'm sitting there thinking they could grab my kid if we were at Cave City at, 460 or at I-65, stopping to get gas. They could grab my kid and be at the Gulf within 9 hours. And how do we even know what direction all of those things that you think about. And it just terrifies me.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a statistic yesterday. I want to say it was, there may have also been an FBI report. But right now that um, the traffickers are now making more money trafficking people than drugs.
I believe that.
Yeah, that was just released yesterday. Now, again, I'm going off of what they're telling me. Obviously, you and I have no way of confirming, these
Right.
reports. But
That
I
would
mean,
not surprise me in the least.
but it does sound believable. Uh, sex trafficking, and on the global scale, I'm sure I can see where it could potentially rival the drug traffics, the
Right.
drug trafficking trade.
He
So yeah,
also told us that the United States is the biggest consumer of that
I
business.
I've heard that as well. So to your, you were talking about getting them out of the country. The report that the FBI put out yesterday was regarding bringing sex slaves into the country. So the same folks that were trafficking or that were transporting drugs from south to north across our southern border were making supposedly more money bringing sex slaves from the south to the north into the United States. So that would support your statement of us as a country being, the demand, right? The
Yeah,
people that we've had that discussion before. Hey, how do you stop drugs from coming into the country? My answer is that you can't. The only way you can stop drugs from coming into the country is to remove the demand. As long as there's a demand,
exactly.
they're
Yep.
going to bring the supply. So the same principle applies
Yep.
to the human trafficking. As long as there is a
Absolutely.
demand, there are people that are going to be willing to take the risk to provide the supply because it's
Yeah,
profitable.
that is so true. It's evil. Well, let's talk about your class that you're going to be doing for us.
Okay.
So I got that pulled up. November 8th and 9th.
Hmm.
Mike is going to be up, or well, I started to say up here. You're not. You're like east of us, right?
I'm used to
Over
y'all. Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Mike's going to be here at Barren River State Park in Lucas, Kentucky, which is actually Glasgow, Kentucky. But he's going to be teaching a 2-day land navigation workshop. Tell us a little bit about that.
So of all the classes I taught, that one was the most popular. That one has been the most popular consistently. So the land navigation it's a 2-day course. The first day is your classroom stuff. That is essentially an introduction to map reading. We take you from the beginning of this is a map, right? We take you literally from that point to understanding the compass, understanding how the azimuth on the compass relates to the map, how to determine your distance on the ground, how to determine your direction on the ground, how to interpret all those squiggly lines on the map that you see on a topographical map that may look like a bowl of spaghetti if you're not accustomed to it, but is actually giving you a 3D picture of the ground. By the time you finish day two, not only will you understand how to read the map, you'll understand how to take that information, go out into the woods, and travel from point A to point B successfully.
I'm excited. I think it's
Yeah,
going to be great. I think it's
yeah.
going to be a great time. And maybe we'll lose Jason in the woods. That might be a bonus. But
Well, so I'll tell you. Obviously, the way we got tied in together is that I'm writing books now, and the Precipice series. A lot of the things that I've taught in the past, or even the land navigation that I'm teaching now, um, they're addressed in the series as well. So it's I've gotten some cool feedback from readers saying that I heard you talk about this in person, and then I saw this in your book, and that was a cool full circle experience
that
for
is
them.
cool.
I'm going, yeah, I've seen that. I've heard him talk about that in person.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So, if you all are interested in coming to the land navigation workshop, you can go to KentuckySustainableLiving.com and check and click on in-person workshops. It's at the top of the page. We would love to have you. It's going to be a great time. I can't wait to do this.
Hmm.
Um, are you going to talk about other kind of maps or just topographical maps?
For this course, we do touch. I do touch on others on like traditional maps such as road maps, but the focus of the course is topographical maps. However, topographical maps are the more complex style of map. So if you can read a
Mhm.
topographical map, you can read the less complex maps such as your road map or your park map and those kind of things that you might come across that don't have elevation information, which is what a topographical map does. So if you can understand a topographical map, you can understand the others.
I feel like we have a whole, like maybe a few generations that don't know how to read maps.
Yeah, 100%. So
I have no idea.
it is
Like an
quickly becoming
atlas.
a lost art. Yeah, you're spot on. It's quickly becoming a lost art. So here, I've had people ask me, do you teach a GPS course? I don't teach a GPS course because the GPS is doing the work for you. It's like I don't teach people how to start a fire with a lighter. Okay.
Right.
I teach you how to use other methods. Now, I recommend you use the lighter if you have it in an emergency situation, and because you don't have to practice using a lighter. You need
Right.
to practice using a ferro rod or other techniques.
Yes.
The same principle is applied to map reading. You don't need to practice necessarily using a GPS, but if you have it, use it. If it fails,
You
if
need
you
to know
have
how to
nothing
read a map.
if you have nothing to fall back on, and
Yeah.
you put all your reliance on that technology, and that technology fails you, you've now set yourself up for failure.
Yeah. My Randy, my husband, he used to drive over the road, and so every couple of years, they would come out with a new trucker atlas, and I have two of his trucker atlases sitting on the shelf over there, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, if we need to know, which I mean, it's been a while since he drove over the road, but still, it has like all of the roads, more than
Yep.
most map or most atlases have. So
So
get
I'll tell you
yourself an
this.
atlas, learn how to read it.
Let me make a quick recommendation. I'm not sure how much time we got left here, but let me throw one recommendation out. I say that I view this as a safety recommendation. Atlases are great. There is a version of the atlas called a gazetteer, and they typically sell them at Walmart. Although they're becoming less common, but you can still find them online. But a gazetteer is typically a very, very detailed book of maps on a state, like as big as an atlas is, but zoomed into the point to where that takes up um, or one state takes up all those pages. So,
Okay.
like for me, I carry a stack of gazetteers in my vehicles for everything on the East Coast, any state that I might go to, and any adjacent state to the ones I expect to be traveling in. I keep those. That it's a little stack of books. You put it in the back, and you just forget about it until you need it. It has come into play for me personally, where I needed them. But a gazetteer and an atlas, because the atlas is kind of that overall, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
gazetteer is that extreme detail that you can have that in your vehicle, understand how to use it, and regardless of whether you have GPS coverage, that paper is always going to work.
Yep. I will be checking that out. Thank you for that recommendation.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Where can people find you, Mike?
Right now, if you go to the Precipice series, if you search the Precipice series on Facebook, that's our current location. I have a website under development. It's with our web designer right now. It's actually overdue. It should have already been out. Uh, it's going to be as soon as that website goes live. I'm going to post that on the Precipice series Facebook page and let everybody aware of that. If you're looking for the books, they're available on Amazon. The first book is called Edge of the Precipice. The second one is Over the Precipice. Book 3 is about to come out. Book 1 is also getting it right now. It's being recorded. It's going to audiobook. As soon as book 1
I
is
love
done,
audiobooks when I'm working on my
everybody.
farm. They're the
that-
best.
I'm telling you, it's my number one question
So
at
you
book
found a
signing.
guy.
We did. We found a great guy. Michael LeBlanc is his name. Um, but the number one question I get at book signings is this available on audio? So it was more difficult than I anticipated getting that done. But we've been Sean, my media director, and I have been working diligently to get that accomplished, and it is finally in production. So that will be going to it'll be available on Audible soon. And as soon as book 1 is released, we're immediately starting book 2. And by the time he gets done with book 2, book 3 will be out. So we're going to keep rolling.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mike, I appreciate you getting on here with me. It's been great talking to you.
You too.
Not a fun topic, but a necessary topic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're listening to this, just be aware of what's going on around you. Watch your kids, keep your face out of your phone, and be aware of your surroundings. So thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. I will
Thank you,
see
ma'am.
you all later.
Thank you. All right, bye.
Bye.